There we go. Ooh. Right on. All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Crimson Way podcast. I'm your host, Zach Phelps.
And Nick Dorsing.
And we have a guest today, our first guest appearance.
Seth Stone.
Yep. So
Happy to be on here.
This is going to be kind of, I'm kind of really excited for this episode because this kind of ties together everything that kind of has transpired over the last 6 months, and essentially the birth of this podcast. Me and Nick have kind of been on this journey, and Seth just happened to kind of land right in the middle of everything, and it's a pretty epic story. So
yeah, kind of ever since the inception of the podcast, or even thinking about it, this was like the story that we kind of wanted to tell or have you tell.
Because it's really this is like the birth of the podcast, basically. Like this is how this whole ordeal came to be, and it's a really, really cool story, and I hope we could do it justice, because it's pretty special. So
yeah, indeed. I guess, Seth, do you want to kind of start off by, giving your testimony, essentially, kind of like your life story and testimony?
How old are you?
I'm 26.
Okay. You have a wife?
Yep, wife and 2 kids.
Awesome.
2 boys and 1 on the way, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's exciting.
Yeah,
for sure.
Do you guys know if it's a boy or girl yet?
Nope, don't know yet. We'll find out probably in the next week or so.
Awesome.
So, cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
Fun times. A little nervous, but
yeah,
I don't know about 3 of them. I don't know that I could handle another boy. But
I always wanted just 2 kids. Yeah. I'm from it's just me and my brother, and that's in my mind that was a good number, because I'm gone a lot, I'm kind of running around, and I always wanted 2 kids. I wanted a boy and a girl, and my first one was born. She was a girl, obviously, and then but we found out on that one, but on the second one we didn't find out. We waited, and when my wife gave birth, I pulled her out, and I was obviously I was super happy because I had a healthy baby, right? And that was the only thing that really mattered. But at the same time, my wife's like, "What is it?" I was like, "It's a girl," And in my mind, I was like, "Dang it! I gotta have another one."
Are you guys gonna have another one?
Yeah, we are. We are for sure. Maybe, probably. The goal is to get pregnant next fall, I guess. So
right on.
No hunting season babies for me. I'm pretty careful.
Yeah. Ours is due in the beginning of August. So.
Awesome. Nice. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's a good time. Awesome.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, give us kind of a little bit of a background on yourself. We're in Eastern Oregon. Were you born and raised here?
No, I was born in East Texas.
Okay.
So, yep, born in Texas, and just a couple hours from Dallas.
Okay.
And in the rolling hills and pines, and grew up kind of hunting and fishing, and a lot of bass fishing and catfishing and stuff like that, and didn't really get into hunting until we moved up to Oregon.
Okay.
But, we had a buddy that worked for the railroad, and so he came down with a bunch of his friends that also worked for the railroad, and they came down for a hog hunt. So we took them out for a hog hunt, and they had a good time. And on their way back to Oregon, they had a layover on their flight and ended up getting a bunch of free tickets. So they invited us up to come steelhead fishing. So when we came up to go fishing, my parents just, fell in love with Eastern Oregon and the idea of 4 seasons and all that stuff. And of course we were down for the snow. I come from Texas, we got 1 snow, and it was like a skiff of hail, and we just played in it all day. And
sure.
So the idea of coming up and getting to play in some snow was awesome. So
I bet, that's super cool.
Yeah, he told him if you find us a job, we'll pack up and head that way. So
awesome.
And they hit us up pretty quick and was like, "Hey, we got a dealership here looking for a mechanic." That's what my dad does. And so he was like, "All right." And my mom flew up and found a house, and we just packed everything up and moved just like that.
That's crazy. How old were you?
I was 6. Yeah, 6 or 7.
Awesome.
I think, we moved here in 2006. So
okay. So you've been here for a while.
Yeah.
And have you always lived in this valley for the extent of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not born. Grew up here in Eastern Oregon in Union
Okay.
County, and up until after high school, I moved out for a little while. Moved to Tri-Cities, Washington, and
Okay.
spent a little time up in Coeur d'Alene, and just always get drawn right back here. So
Sure. Yeah.
so
Awesome. Cool. Right on. Well, what was your upbringing look like? Like what did that look like?
yeah. My dad, when I was born, my dad was a preacher,
Mm-hmm.
and his dad was a preacher, and his brother's a preacher, and it still is today. But when I was, I don't know, like 4 years old, my dad stepped away from the church and quit preaching and got his job being a mechanic, and kind of went a different route. And I can remember, being pretty young, we were still pretty heavy in the church. Like we still went to church on Sundays and stuff like that. And we'd come visit my grandpa and uncle, and of course go to church and
Mm-hmm.
get to know God as a kid. And once we moved to Oregon, it was kind of hit or miss. We were in church every once in a while, and then we'd go out for a year or two, and then we'd go back for a few months, and then out again, and we just never really prioritized it or took it too serious. And
Sure.
as a kid, you don't know any better, and
Sure.
Right.
you know God, you believe in God, but you don't by any means born again or anything like that. So
Sure.
for a long time, I thought I knew God,
Uh-huh.
being raised up around it and stuff,
Yeah.
but not to the extent I do today. So
Sure.
How about when you guys moved to Eastern Oregon, from an outdoors perspective, what did you and like your brothers and everybody like to do? I mean, you said you guys kind of got into hunting when you moved up here, a little bit more at least. Like,
Yeah.
what did you guys do most of?
Yeah, so the railroad guys that came down and did the hog hunt, they do a lot of elk hunting, and so we actually hunted in the Starkey unit. It was a huge party. I mean, there'd be 30 of us in camp.
Holy
and,
cow.
Spike tags and
Really?
spike tags and bull tags, and
Uh-huh.
and it was just pushing thickets and have shooters out in the meadows and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And it was a great time. Lots of elk killed and
Yeah.
packing bulls from a young age, and that was a blast.
Yeah.
Texas whitetail drives.
Yeah. No, we never did any drives down there, just tree stand hunting,
Uh-huh.
and so it was cool to get to like be in the mountains and hike around and see elk and elk.
Yeah.
That's
Because
cool.
there's like not
to us.
much public ground in Texas, is there?
No,
Yeah.
there is some, but there's not a lot of deer on them.
Uh-huh.
They push pretty hard, so
Yeah.
they pretty much hang out in the private land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's cool.
it's also incredibly thick, so
Uh-huh.
you're
That's
just
what I've
sitting there
heard. I've
waiting
always
and
kind of
hoping
wanted to go to
something comes
Texas to go hunt and like mess around, but
around.
Yeah.
I don't know. I melt in the heat, so
It's definitely that.
Not the
It's
place- not the place for you.
super humid.
no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Uh-uh.
It is cool down there. Like I've
Yeah.
only ever made one trip down, but I enjoyed the week I was there or whatever. I didn't get to do any hunting or anything, but yeah, kind of
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
And your family lives back there now.
Yeah, they
correct?
just moved back a couple years ago. So,
Okay.
I've got a sister in Alaska. My parents and most of my siblings are in Texas, and then I've got one here still. So,
Awesome.
yeah, we're just kind of spread out everywhere now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But I kind of cut you off when you were talking about kind of your faith, right? And how you and your family's time in the church when you were here in Eastern Oregon, you kind of continue on with that, right? Because you said that you guys were kind of bouncing around in and out, but you didn't really have a relationship with the Lord, I guess.
Yeah.
To put words in your mouth, but
yeah, we I don't know what age I was exactly. I was probably 9 or 10, and we had made a trip back down south to hang out with my grandparents for a couple weeks during summer break. And I think they kind of knew that we were in and out of the church quite a bit, and being Southern Baptist and a preacher, and my uncle's a preacher, like I felt like my grandparents is very important that when these kids get down here, we need to get them saved.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember sitting around the table with them one morning, and them asking us if we want to accept God into our hearts and do the whole prayer and be saved, and watching my siblings be like, yeah, we can do that. I was just went along with it, and so I got saved at a really young age, and then it was probably I was 14 or 15, and we were going to church, and my parents asked if we wanted to get baptized, and they were doing a baptism one Sunday, and so we were like, yeah, let's do it. And so we got baptized, and I guess it never really meant as much then to me as it does now, like knowing the meaning behind it and everything. And I wouldn't say because I got saved and baptized it was just like a flip of a switch, and
for sure,
I was actually saved. But
I kind of had a similar situation where like same type of deal. Like the church was doing a baptism, and my mom was like, hey, you should get baptized. And I like at that point in time in my life, I was already kind of like walking away from God, but like I still knew who God was, like, and I knew that I was supposed to get baptized. So same type of deal. Like I just kind of like went along with it, and I was like, yeah, like sure, like I'll get baptized. But it was the same type of thing. Like it almost like in that moment, like I knew I was getting baptized, but I also knew that immediately following that, I was gonna go make poor decisions. Right?
Yeah.
Like
and that was just it. Like you get baptized and you go back to school and you act like you never got baptized. It just doesn't change anything. It's just just getting baptized and saved doesn't make you the Christian that
for sure
you need to be.
Does not give you a relationship with God.
No, it does not.
Yeah,
and I think that's a common misconception that some people have.
For sure.
Yeah, that's definitely. Fact.
Yeah, I would agree. When you, I mean, I imagine that you probably were just the same as Nick, right? Nick knows you a little bit better. We'll get into that like more as we go along here. But like when you got into high school, like was it a downward spiral from there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially once you get your driver's license, hanging out with your buddies and skipping class and drinking beer at lunch and going back to school and chewing and smoking and
I think you and I were probably very, very similar in high school if I were to venture to guess.
And a lot of skipping class to go shed hunting in the spring and
go make mud bogs wherever.
Oh yeah. Farmers following you back to the school to chew you out.
Yeah.
Cuss you out. Tearing up the field, tearing up the road and
100%. For sure.
No, definitely did not change the way I acted.
Definitely.
I think morally inside I knew, right and wrong.
Yeah.
But it definitely doesn't keep you from going out and
doing
living it up.
For sure. For sure. 100%.
We've all been there, that's for sure.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Yeah. And then so that kind of continued into high school. And then I mean after high school, then what what'd you do?
I mean after high school there was I've always considered myself a Christian, and I've worked places where they'd make fun of you for being a Bible thumper Christian, and you get kind of offended, but didn't really have the true meaning, or at the time I didn't get upset, kind of like I maybe would today, or I don't know that I'd get upset. I'd probably just pray for him, but
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I knew God, but He clearly wasn't. Living in me. I wasn't, being led by the Holy Spirit by any means. I was still going out and doing what I wanted to do versus what I kind of knew was right and wrong.
Yeah.
And, drinking and cussing and just kind of acting a fool all the time and definitely not prioritizing God in my day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, there was times where, I'm like, man, I need to open the Bible and start reading the Bible, and I'd open up to Genesis and start reading a few pages and just kind of be like, well, this isn't very exciting, and put it back, put it back down and not look back at it for a while. And prayer life, I always prayed when I needed to pray for myself or somebody in my family, but it wasn't for giving thanks and glory to God. So
for sure,
that's definitely it's changed now, and I feel as though like everything that has happened has just kind of led up to where we are today. So
100%.
And you can look back and just see it all unfold, and it's pretty cool to see.
For sure.
Absolutely. So how did that all carry into like your marriage with your wife and like having kids? And I mean, how did that I guess just affect them or all of you in any way?
Yeah, I mean, living of the world, you could say, like just having a wife and kids and not really leading. I feel like leading with God is definitely the best way to raise your family and just love and respect each other more. And, beforehand, we we almost had like a disconnect, if you will. Like, we loved each other, but our relationship was nothing like it is today.
Yeah.
And it was like a switch flipped.
Yeah.
And everything changed for the better, obviously.
For sure.
And, I never really thought about how important it was to bring my kids to God and make sure that they know God and stuff from a young age. And which is something that, I had, my parents did a good job at a young age. We knew God and stuff at a young age, and
they laid the foundation.
Yeah, they started the foundation. Yeah. It's not like it carried through,
Sure.
So I don't know how, impactful it is at that age, but
I think there's a lot of people that have, because like the three of us all kind of have a very similar story, and I think that there's a lot of people, honestly, that applies to,
Right.
And having that like somewhat of a fundamental foundation from when you were a little kid, like I truly think that makes like a big difference, because like you do know who God is, right? Like there's a God and you believe in a God, even though you may be choosing to walk in disobedience and you still know he exists, right? Like it's not like you ever stopped believing in God.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, kind of tough to describe it, I guess. But there's definitely some disconnect for sure. And you never truly know what it is. Obviously, you love your wife, and but there's just something.
There's something that's missing there
in between you.
Yeah,
too,
for sure. It was the same way in me and my wife's relationship, because when we first got together, there wasn't any. God was in no way, shape, or form in our relationship or in the middle of it, right?
Right.
There's it started.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like me and my wife have always had like a pretty good relationship, but it wasn't until that we gave our relationship to the Lord and we're like, okay, look, we're flawed individuals and we have some problems, and like we need your help to be in the middle of this and to like join us. And like I had problems and she had problems, and it wasn't until we gave all those problems to the Lord and said we want to have our relationship with you in the center of it, that's when everything like completely pivoted, and it was a revolutionary change in me and my wife's relationship, for sure.
Yeah, I guess you could say a good way to describe it would be like it's me and her against each other instead of me and her against a common enemy. We're fighting against each other. I do this for you, you do this for me, I do this for you, you do this for me, type of thing. Almost like a bartering system of, well, I'm not going to do this because you didn't do this. Or, I don't get treated this way, so I'm not going to treat you this way. And, it just drives you apart.
Yeah.
Not only do you have, a common enemy, but, a common goal, right?
Yeah.
A common driving force, a common purpose, right?
Yeah.
I know for Emma and I, like if it wasn't for us both, being rooted in faith in one way or another, right? Like it would never work. Well, at least not to the extent that it does, right? Like, every decision that we make, if we're not being led by the same thing, if we don't have the same end goal, right? Obviously, you're living for different things. So
and
for sure.
And I mean, to say I didn't have, God as a foundation in my life to some degree is, I couldn't say that, because I knew early on that like the importance of, having sex with one woman and, being with one person and getting married. And, her and I had been together 10 years now. We got together when we were 15 and 16. And I knew like once we didn't wait for marriage, but we were in high school just being dumb. And, but I knew from that point, like no matter what, we had to make this work, because, this is the way it's intended to be.
And for sure.
And so, being together so long without God being the focus of our relationship, it's definitely highs and lows.
And that was the same thing for me. For sure. Definitely. How did your wife grow up like in church, like kind of like a similar background as you?
Yeah, pretty similar. She her parents were like some youth mentors in church and stuff, so she got to kind of grow up, probably when she was, I don't know, 7 to 12, in the church pretty good, and youth group and Awanas, all that good stuff. And same deal, got saved and baptized, and it was her idea to get baptized, and so she feels a little different than it was for me, where I feel like I kind of got baptized for the wrong reasons. It wasn't me coming up and being like, I want to get baptized, and
Yeah.
but after that, she had a family member pass away, and her family kind of stepped away from the church, and she never really knew the full reason why they stepped away. And similar to me with my family, and so it's from about 12 years old up until now that she hasn't really gone to church or had a relationship with God, didn't pray, didn't really feel like her prayers got answered. And she always felt like when she prays, the opposite happens.
Sure.
And, that's all changed now, so
Sure.
it's been pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's been cool for me to be able to see kind of changes in both of you, right, from the outside looking in your guys' relationship, and we'll get into more of that later too. But yeah, it's been cool, very cool at least from my perspective. Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you when you were talking about kind of the time in your life when you weren't pursuing the Lord, was both Zach and I, when talking about this the other day, was we both felt guilty the whole time. Yeah. Right? We both felt guilty the whole time, but would just ignore that in whatever way, right? Drink away the guilt or whatever it was. Did you ever feel that in that time? Like, did you ever feel like, I'm not doing what I should be, I'm being disobedient, I'm being, X, Y, or Z?
I feel like I was feeling that conviction, but I didn't recognize where it was coming from.
Okay,
yeah.
We did kind of talk about that too.
Yeah. I think I didn't realize that it was conviction of...
Sure. Yeah, fundamentally, you kind of
sin.
know that it's wrong. But
yeah. But I think because I wasn't seeking a relationship with God, I wasn't recognizing it.
Sure.
So like, as far as drinking goes, I'd drink and drive, but I wouldn't drink to the point where I was super drunk and driving, but definitely gonna get in trouble, And in 2018, my brother got into a pretty bad car accident. We all went up to a bonfire, and at that fire, I was a DD and drove a buddy up there and his Cherokee, and I had plenty of room in the back, for anybody else. And my brother wasn't going to come to the fire, and he decided, I'm gonna swing up there. We're only a couple years apart, so we're close in age. And so him and a couple other buddies, his best friend and one of his other really good buddies, left a bar here in town and went up the mountain. And I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Fox Hill, super steep, nasty road. Yeah. And I don't know the grade exactly, but it's steep. So you went up there to have a good time, and there was probably 40, 50 people up there, and just a huge bonfire and drinking, and it hit about 11:30, and I was like, man, I'm ready to go. We had a duck hunt the next morning, so we had to get up at like 2 to get on the marsh and and lock in a spot. So I was like, let's get out of here and go get a couple hours of sleep before we go out on the marsh. So I could tell my brother was drinking pretty good, and he was the driver, and I was like, hey, are you guys good to go? And I was like, you've kind of been drinking a little too much. Do you want to ride with me? We have room for all you guys. We can come back up tomorrow and get your pickup. And he's like, no, I'm good. And I was like, are you sure? And, his buddies are like, he's good. We're not going to let him drink anymore. We'll cut him off. And I was like, all right, well, we're heading out. So see you guys. We took off down the mountain and got back home and crashed out. I feel like just as I fell asleep, I get a phone call, and it's one of my buddies that was also up at the fire, and he's like, hey man, your brother rolled his truck coming down the mountain, and Justin was one of the passengers, and he's like, if Justin doesn't make it, he's gonna go to prison for manslaughter. And I was like, oh man. So we run to the house and wake my parents up and tell them, and they're freaking out, and we're not getting any answers. It's 2 a.m, and we haven't heard anything yet. And finally, some of the buddies that were at the fire show up to my parents' house and were like, life flight landed and to pick him up, and he was gone. So Noah got arrested and for DUI, and he's gonna go to court and possibly trial and see prison. So that was a pretty pivotal point, I feel like, as far as like drinking. Like at that point I recognized, like, this is not something I want to partake in. And it wasn't really, I feel like I wasn't seeing it as God, like, using that as a reason to not do it. But from that point forward, no more drinking and driving. If I drink even a beer or two,
Sure.
the wife can drive or somebody else, or
Sure.
So and then a couple months later, my other brother, gets in a really bad car accident going up spring bear hunting, and they're going up Starkey, him and his buddy, and same deal. I guess some elk ran out, and they came down to the bar for a while and heading back up to camp, and some elk ran out, and he swerved and rolled his truck 15 or 16 times. Just
wow. Holy cow.
destroyed. He had a Super Duty dually and had no fenders left on it.
Yeah.
The cab was fully crushed, and neither one of them had seatbelts on. So the one guy ended up in the back seat on the floorboard.
Holy cow.
And had a pretty nasty head injury and got life flighted out of there. And he ended up getting, a DUI and lost his license for a couple years. And so it was just like, this is not something I'm going to play with.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
So I feel like with all that, I kind of started thinking more about God and but still not prioritizing it.
Sure.
And it wasn't until, pretty recently where I decided to buckle down and pursue him, or he pursued me.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes it feels like in my own life, like I always kind of joke that like the Lord didn't give me an option. Right?
Yeah.
Like when he called me, like I disobeyed multiple times, and like I got disciplined.
Yeah.
Right. Like it was I always joke about that. Like but like it's only kind of a joke, right? Because
right.
Yeah.
when he flipped that switch, and he was like, okay, like you're done. Like you need to get your life figured out, and get straightened up. It was a series of events that unfolded after that were just kind of became like undeniable to me, and I was like, okay, I hear you.
Yeah. I know for me, it was like, just the more I would obey, the more things would go wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Like just nothing was lining up.
Sure.
Relationships and friends and work and just nothing was going right.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It wasn't until after the fact that I realized, I need to clean some things up here. Lo and behold, things start moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's not a coincidence.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I didn't know all that. Like I don't know like a whole lot of your backstory, to be honest. And that's certainly that had to have had like kind of a profound impact on the way that you like kind of thought. And
yeah, absolutely. Definitely thought differently, at least about that aspect of my life, still, I was messing up everywhere else,
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I met Nick that everything started kind of turning around.
Sure.
Trying to break down the story, get it all in the right order.
Yeah.
My wife decided that she wanted to go back to work. We were kind of struggling financially, and so she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get a job again." And so she applied to a few jobs and got a job at the bank, and happened to be Nick's wife worked there, and we didn't know each other at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool because Nick's wife, devout Christian woman, like very godly woman.
Yeah.
And wasn't the type of person I feel like McKenna would gravitate toward.
Sure.
And she'd come home and, talk about Emma and, a couple other coworkers as well, but mostly Emma. And she's like, man, I just feel bad. She doesn't have any friends here. Like she always talks about she wants to have some friends, but she's not from here. She's from Washington and just didn't know anybody here. And I was like, well then go hang out with her. Like just ask her to hang out. Oh, I can't do that. Like, sure you can't just, women have a hard time.
Yeah, they do.
Making the first move and reach out.
At least the women in our lives
for
do.
sure.
Yeah.
And so I was like, just go hang out with her. And she was like, well, I think you'd like her husband. He's into hunting and stuff. And like, look, they just got this bird dog and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, I'm not really into bird hunting. I was like, telling myself, I don't need any more friends. I don't really want to put the effort forward to like go make a new buddy,
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And she's like, yeah, we should all hang out. And I was like, you should go hang out with her first and get to know her on a personal level. Like I've got other stuff I like to do. And because it was always like I have friends to go hang out with. She was always at home and felt left out. And then, you feel guilty for going out and doing stuff when she's stuck at home with the kids. And I wanted her to have somebody that she can go hang out with while I watch the kids, and she can go get her time.
Yeah.
And so by talking to Emma and seeing the way Emma, walked and treated people and talked, and I could tell it was working on McKenna, and she was like, "We need to start going to church." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, yeah, but with 2 feral toddlers, a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old, church does not sound fun." Like, that sounds like a miserable time.
Yeah.
With 2 kids that are just never been to church and can't sit down, and they're just feral. And so, I was open to try, and she was adamant, like, "We need to go to church. We need to go to church." So I was like, "All right, let's go to church." So we tried, I don't know, 3 or 4 different churches, off and on for a couple months. Not every Sunday, because, we'd get back. She'd be like, "You want to go to church this morning?" I'm like, it does not sound fun. Like, most of the time when we go to church, I ended up with one of the kids outside or in the hallways, just getting frustrated that my kid's not listening, sitting still and being loud. And you're just kind of embarrassed by the way they're acting at church, and while all the other kids are sitting there being quiet. So, that's kind of the repercussions of not getting them into it at a very young age.
Sure.
And you feel guilty for that.
Sure.
But, basically that kept going, and finally she's like, "Well, we should go to church with Nick and Emma." And I was like, "Yeah, where do they go?" She's like, "Well, they said they'll go wherever we want to try." And I was like, "Well, that's weird. They don't have a church?" Like, she's like, "Well, they do, but I know you want to try this certain church." And so I was like, "Yeah, we can invite them." And at the time I didn't know it, but I had just recently applied for a job for a sales position at an irrigation company that thought it was pretty cool. And I mean, it was God, family, work in that order.
Yeah.
And I mean, that part I, wasn't really paying too much attention from, but the main text in the place is like, "Do you want guilt-free time off to hunt?" And I was like, "Dude, that sounds
Jed has been working on his sales pitch."
Yeah. I was like, that sounds like the place to work. So, I was a sales guy at a Ford dealership here in town, and I was like, I'd much rather sell something else and have guilt-free time off and weekends off. At the time I was working every holiday and weekends, and that in itself was kind of tearing up our family. Being commission-based and never knowing like what your income's going to be. And so I had applied for this job and hadn't heard anything back yet. And so we show up to church with this guy, and he pulls up in a living water irrigation truck. And I was like, "What?" And McKenna's like, "Yeah, you should get a job with Nick." I was like, "I just applied for a job at that place." And she's like, "Well, he gets a work truck." And I was like, "Well, he also gets guilt-free time off to go hunting." So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
We go to the church, and we say, "Hey," shake hands, and we both kind of like go separate ways.
Yeah.
And that was about the extent of it. Church ended. I spent most of the time out in the lobby with the kids, like usual, and while my wife sat in there and listened to the sermon, and it was still just like, nah, I don't know, not really feeling like doing this.
Yeah.
And so I think a couple weeks go by, and I kind of wanted to do something, and Emma wanted to do something, and I don't know if it was my wife or his wife that invited out or planned it, but we were going to go out to dinner, and I was like, "Oh, here we go. I'm just going to have to sit through a dinner with some dude I don't even know and talk." So
I remember Emma was asking me about, "You want to go to dinner with Seth and McKenna?" I was like, "Oh,
no, not really.
This guy's probably weird. I don't want to go hang out with this guy."
Yeah.
And so we go out to dinner, and we just started talking about high school and like just crazy stuff that we've done and shot and just
and then hunting and
hunting in general, and shed hunting, and just sharing photos, and ended up just we were over here just blah, 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 chatting it up, having a good time, and we both left I think having a little different idea about each other.
Sure.
We're like, "Man, yeah, he's pretty cool." And with that, I got to recognize like, dude, like this couple has it figured out. Like they're both Christians, they're both like they have it togetger.
They got their lives in order.
They're not cussing and acting like
glad we fooled you.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like inspiring to see like these two clearly love each other, and here we are, we've been together 10 years and we treat each other like crap. Sure. Like not really, like we didn't really, but we weren't treating each other the way we needed to treat each other. And,
sure.
And so I was like, yeah, let's go to church with them next Sunday. And, so I think at that time we tried out your church.
Mm-hmm.
And a little weird, the first experience there. Our church has a doxology at the end of it. And it was just kind of like, well, I've never seen this before. This is kind of weird. But, put that aside. And I don't know. I didn't really feel like that was our church for a few months, I think. And, just continued to go. And they had a pretty cool, they have like a nursery, and they have Sunday school for the kids during the sermon. So like the kids could go away and go to that. And the first few weeks the kids weren't going, they didn't want to go back there. They'd cry and end up with us. And we just, for some reason we stuck it through, we didn't let it deter us. And with that, we started hanging out a little bit more, not much. Probably came over a few times to each other's house for dinner. And with that though, I noticed something I've never even tried to do with my family. We sat down at the dinner table, and Nick's like, well, let's bless this food, take his hat off, and he'd pray for everybody and pray for the family. And I'm like, man, you acknowledge that, and you're like, I'm a man, and I don't even pray pray with my wife and kids at the dinner table. And you just start feeling convicted for that,
Yeah, the whole time you're just kind of thinking about this and processing this.
Yeah,
and just watching him and kind of taking notes.
Yeah, your gears are turning.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
But you can't just choose to be like that.
Sure.
I feel like.
Yeah.
And so I still working my same job, and I'm just calling a lot, checking in on my application.
Sure.
And finally they call me in for an interview, and I go in an interview, and I thought I did pretty good, but I've never worked in the irrigation industry at all. And one of the guys in the interview I knew from him coming to the dealership and looking at rigs and stuff, and he was buddies with the general manager or the owner of our dealership. So I was like, oh man, he's gonna go and talk to my higher up and let him know that I was just at an interview. So ended up I was calling and checking in on my interview, and I really wanted a job there. It just felt like that's where I was supposed to be. And
I was one of the ones that interviewed you on the panel too, right?
Yeah,
So
it was Nick and the owner and another dude. And it was pretty cool. And Nick's like, no, I think you did good. And I was like, yeah, man, I really want a job. And at the time I wanted that position. And I think the way things are now, it's changed. But I ended up calling him, and he was like, hey man, it was really good to meet you and get to know you, but I think we're going to go a different route. And I was like, bummer. I was like, yep, that's done. So
kind of deflated your sales maybe a little bit.
Yeah. I was like, dang it. I had never interviewed a place and didn't get offered
Didn't get a job. Sure.
Yeah. So I was like, I was bummed out.
Sure.
And I was like, well, so I accepted a different position at the dealership I was at, and went into
you're a service advisor.
Advisor position.
Yeah.
And I was liking it, but just everybody there, there wasn't hardly anybody there that believed in God or went to church. And I was kind of starting to get into that a bit and going to church, and it just felt like every time I went there, I was just not happy. I just was not happy there in general. The manager and the owner, I just wasn't a happy place. There's no
peace in it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And we were still struggling financially, and my wife ended up quitting her job and going back home with the kids because it wasn't panning out, daycare costs and versus what she could make, and so I was like, man, I just felt it in my heart to start praying for a job at Living Water. And so I was praying if it's your will, lead me to get a job there, and just praying every day that I'd get a job, and wasn't getting a call, wasn't nothing popping up. And finally I was like, and this is the crazy part, I was like, I'm over this place. I'm willing to, because I've always done tree work before this, sales position, and had a little tree service for a while, and did that self-employed. And then before that, I worked for a couple of companies and doing power line tree work and just residential tree work. And I was like, all the money's in power line tree work in Idaho. So I had gotten a call a few months prior that somebody just messaged me off of Indeed, and they called and left me a voicemail and was like, we want you for a foreman position in Boise, and starting pay is $42 an hour. So I was like, I'm just gonna call them up and tell them I'll take it, and I will travel back and forth until maybe we want to move to Boise.
Yeah.
And so I remember I was outside and on my lunch, snuck out on the lot, and I was scrolling through my voicemails trying to find that voicemail. And as I clicked that voicemail to hit call them to see if they're still looking, I get a text from the owner, Living Water. He's like, "Hey man, we got a position open. I was thinking about you. If you want to swing in sometime this week and we can chat about it." And I was like,
literally at that
what?
moment.
Yeah, I was like, "Are you serious?" So I called my wife and I was like, I was literally just calling, so-and-so up in Boise to tell them I'm going to take the job because we need the money. And Jed just texted me, the owner, and offered me to come up and talk to him. And she's like, "Oh, sweet. Yeah, go, like, tomorrow." So I texted him and I was like, "What time could you do it?" And he's like, 6 a.m. So I was like, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So, next day I went over there and we talked, and he offered me the position, but the pay was far less than what I was making.
Sure.
And I was like, man, for some reason I'm wanting to just say yes. Like,
Sure.
I don't know if this is me wanting to say yes or if this is God saying yes, because I'm praying for this opportunity to have a job at this place. And here it is, and the pay is less than I need to make. I was like, it just doesn't make sense. Like why would he set me up for this,
Yeah.
And so, we talked back and forth and we settled on a starting wage, and I was like, all right, let's do it. And knowing in my heart, like, I just accepted a job that I can't afford, and my wife's probably going to be pretty upset with me.
Sure.
And she wasn't. She was like, I don't care what happens. Like, you just need to stay there. This is where you're supposed to be. And it was very shortly after that, this all transpired.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think we ought to get into that. But there's one more thing that I kind of want to. You had like a pretty serious like medical procedure, didn't you?
Yeah. So
and when was that like kind of like in relation to all of this going down?
In April. So let's see. I got the job in July. So in April, it was before we started going to church. We may have gone.
I think you went a couple times because I remember.
I may have gone a couple times by then
because we had been praying for you guys there while we were at church. I remember.
That's true. So, I went in for I have a lump in my neck right here. And so I was like, man, this is like I got a cold one day and cold went away, and I figured it was a lymph node. So I was like, feeling, I'm like, man, my lymph nodes are all swollen. Well, 2-3 months go by and it's still, the same size. So I'm like, this is weird. So went into an urgent care and they're like, I don't know if that's a lymph node or if it's something else. We're going to refer you to ear, nose, throat doctor. So that was in Hermiston.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Grand for an ear, nose, throat doctor, and he's looking at it and feeling it. And he's like, I think that's a salivatory gland, not a lymph node. And, he's like mashing on it and trying to get it to, see if I'm salivating right. He's got his hands all in my mouth, and I'm like,
sure, that was enjoyable.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, it's not really, no saliva's coming out of that duct. He's like, let's send you up to the hospital, do a CT scan. They can, do some imaging of your head and neck, and we can see if that gland there in that duct is clogged up. Because I guess kind of like a kidney stone or a gallbladder stone, it can plug up the duct and then cause it to back up. And so I went up there, and he's called me back a couple days, and he's like, can you come down to my down to the doctor's office and meet me in my office? And so I was like, okay. So, I left work and went down there, and he's like, I want to show you something here in my personal office on the computer. So followed him in there, and
it's never a good sign.
Yeah. He's like, so I found something interesting and concerning. And I was like, okay. And he's like, your salivatory duct is fine. There's nothing in there. And he's like, as far as the lump goes, I don't want to worry about that until we get this figured out. And he like zooms in on my brain, and it's so weird. He can like go down my arteries, and he finds, he's like, right here in your carotid artery behind your right eye, he's like, there's a aneurysm. he's like, and I'm no neurologist, but I think we need to send you to somebody who knows more about it. Because, being that you're 26 and you have a little significant brain aneurysm is pretty concerning. You know, if it ruptures, you're dead on the spot. So if not, you're gonna pretty much be a vegetable the rest of your life. So I was like, yeah, where do I go? And he's like, we're gonna send you to OHSU in Portland, 4 hours away. So I was like, okay. And he's like, I'll send over the referral. They'll contact you. You'll come up for an appointment. So about a month goes by, haven't heard anything, and finally I get a call. He's like, yep, we're gonna bring you up for an appointment on this date at this time. So wife and I drive all the way up to Portland and walk in, and he's got the same imaging that LeGrand had that my doctor showed me. And he's like, yep, that's a aneurysm measuring this and this. And what do you want to do about it? And I was like,
I don't know.
I don't know. I was like,
you're the brain surgeon.
Yeah,
not me.
At this time, as far as at the dealership, and I was climbing trees. So I was self-employed doing a little tree service. And I was like, man, there's most days I'm, 30, 40, 50 feet up in a tree. If something happened and it took EMTs longer to get to me, like, would it be worth fixing it? And he was like, yeah, we can fix it. The only downside is you're going to be on blood thinners. So I was like, well, if that's the only downside, then yeah, get it fixed. I'd much rather know that it's fixed and be on blood thinners for a while than, have an aneurysm explode and just, drop dead.
Yeah.
So at that time, it was kind of like scary for my wife and I, thinking like, man, what if something did happen and I died and left you and the kids, and so I think we're, kind of leaning more on God at that time, talking about God.
It's kind of like right in the beginning.
Yeah. And at that time, my wife still, like, she felt like I'm cursed. I don't pray. Like, if I pray, the opposite happens. If I were to pray for you that you're okay in your surgery, like, you're going to die in surgery. Because, like, she's like, every family member that has ever been sick and was in the hospital that I prayed for, they end up dying. So she's like, feels like in her head, like, there's no reason for me to pray. So I went in a few months later for the surgery, and we say our goodbyes and wheel me off, and I go in they went in and placed a stent, and it was it's not a major surgery. It's not like they're cutting my head open and going in. They're just going up through my femoral artery, in my groin, and they run like 6 foot of.
They run that sucker all the way through your body.
Yeah, they run like 6 foot of cable. From
cow,
here
dude.
to here through my arteries is 6 feet. And so they ran all the way up in there and placed a stent, and then, back it all back out. Yeah. And I just spent a couple of days in the hospital. But she said that she experienced like one of the weirdest feelings she's ever had. Before this, she was talking to her therapist about like, how do I manage my emotions and my anxiety to, sit through the waiting room, and her therapist like, you need to have like some movies downloaded, some music to listen to, be distracted, maybe read a book, all that. And she was pretty worked up for it and in her head. And she said she went into the waiting room and sat down, and it was just like this huge like sense of peace and calm fell over. And she had no anxiety, wasn't worried one bit, and like almost forgot that I was in surgery. Like, she's like, incredible. It was just like peace and serenity. And then I came out and everything.
How did you feel going into it?
I've always, when it comes to anything medical, I always feel like I'm not too worried about it.
Sure.
Like, man, if I die, I die.
Sure.
Type of thing. Obviously, sure. I don't want to die and leave my kids, but I'm always like, there's no sense in worrying about something I have zero control over.
Sure.
100%. You mentioned earlier today, being worried about like, did I set my family up for success? Like, what if something does happen to me?
Yeah, and that was something that my brother was talking about, and my oldest brother, and he was like, yeah, I've got a buddy that told me something once that just hit me really hard. Like, if something happened today, did you do what you need to do as a father to set your kids up to know God? And that kind of hit hard. And I was like, yeah, no, that's a great point. Like, did I do my job at making sure my kids know who God is? And it wasn't something I had done at the time. And
Yeah.
so
That's
once
a
I
hard-
figured out how to the aneurysm, that's something that we were thinking about quite a bit, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, came out of the surgery just fine.
All was
you know.
good.
Yeah. Took a couple weeks to heal up from my groin, you know.
Yeah.
And after that we you know, just on blood thinners. So my wife was like, I want you to get a different job
Yeah.
where you're not up in a tree running a saw.
Running
you know?
a saw.
Yeah, if you get a
Yeah.
kickback or something, you get
Yeah.
a nasty cut. Hadn't happened before, but
Sure.
you know, if it did, you
Yeah.
have just as much of a chance of bleeding out up there, you know, on all that the blood thinners than
Yeah.
anything
It's
else.
understandable.
So, yeah.
I can see her concern.
Yeah. Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah, for sure. So like right around like when all this is kind of like going on, we had a spring bear. Well, on the shed hunt, like our spring bear hunt last year, which would have been what, April?
Yeah,
April. We're like driving around and we're talking like what we always do, and Nick started telling me, he's like, hey man, like I got this new buddy, you know, and Nick's like, it's kind of cool, you know, just like the way the Lord's kind of like worked in our lives, and my wife and his wife met, and so he kind of started like telling me a little bit about like this story, you know, like and how it was kind of unfolding. And he's like, you would really like him. He's like, he built his own buggy on 1 tons, and like he likes to go drive around in snow wheel. And I was like, all right, you know, like, yeah, this guy, you know, like, yeah, he sounds pretty cool. You know, he likes to hunt and fish, and so Nick's like, you know, you should meet him sometime. And I was like, yeah, you know, yeah, that sounds good. And but that was kind of like the end of it, you know. And really, I don't think I made like really not very many trips over here last spring and early summer.
I think we met once at his wedding.
Yeah,
we shook hands.
That's right.
About as far as it went.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about you.
Yeah.
You got married there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the reception deal,
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I kind of like, I knew who you were, but I'd like in no capacity, like I had never really talked to you per se. And I'll kind of like get into my part of the story now and just kind of like how things all kind of unfolded. But I guess that's kind of a good stopping point. You guys need to go to the bathroom. We should probably check and make sure the camera's still rolling. That's solid, dude. This is good. This is phenomenal, man.
You have 6 minutes till your 1 hour timer.
Okay, so
That's crazy. So like as all this is like going on, you know, like I was kind of essentially like on my own journey, right? Like, and I was really, I had been kind of like really struggling with the thought of like hunting by nature is a pretty selfish pursuit. And it's something that I prioritize like so much time to that I was kind of like, it kind of got to the point where I was like, you know, like I know, like I have a very strong relationship and foundation in God, but like to be completely honest, like I was, I had this internal war going on within myself, like whether or not my hunting was actually like, whether it was God-given, like the drive and the love that I have for hunting, whether that was a God-given gift per se, or whether it was like a big problem, like
worldly endeavor,
a worldly endeavor, and one that I was devoting like entirely too much time to, because there was a guy that sent us an email last night, or a couple days ago, actually. I saw it last night. So shout out to you. Thank you very much for sending the email, because I'm sure you'll probably watch this. And you guys who have sent emails, first off, you guys who have sent emails, thank you very much. Like, you do not know how much that means to us.
It's encouraging.
It is super encouraging, very humbling, and just thank you, seriously, from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. But he was talking about his pursuit of Roosevelts and blacktails, and he said in there that it was almost like a sickness, right?
Yeah.
And to some degree, he is 100% spot on. Like, sure. it consumes so much of my day-to-day like mental thought, and like it's just something that I spend. There's not a day that goes by that I do not think about or take action to try to improve my pursuit of like my
just hunting in general.
Yeah, hunting in general.
Yeah.
And so this was something that I was really kind of struggling with, this whole like thought, because I was like, man, like kind of in no capacity does my hunting really like glorify God. Like on a personal level, I experienced a lot of growth, and I've talked about that before, but like we're called to, at the end of the day, like really the whole reason that we're here on earth, right, is to further the kingdom of the Lord. Like
Yep.
at the very end of the day, like when you break it down to its most basic, simple, fundamental foundation, like that's what we should be doing. Like really, in all reality, like there's really nothing else that we do in our daily lives that holds a candle to giving glory to God and also just like trying to further His kingdom, right? And within my hunting, like it's not that way, right? Like I was devoting tremendous amounts of my time to more or less like a wholly selfish pursuit. Like, and did it benefit me? Yes. But did it take away from my career? Yes. Did it take away from my family?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was gone.
Yeah, you're providing in a sense still.
In a sense,
healthy,
right? Like
healthy
yes,
food
on in some capacity.
being a killer. Me on the other hand, I'm just not bringing anything home, so it's just selfish.
Hey, not this year, dude.
Yeah. But like the flip side of that is that it is like the driving passion in my life. Like it is the reason that I wake up every morning early, and it's the reason that I work out, because I want to be in shape to hike around the mountains. The reason that I eat healthy is so that I am, like in good physical condition so that I can hike around the mountains. It puts food on my family's table, right? Like that's what we eat is game meat and berries and like wild food.
Yeah.
Like mentally, like it's where I draw closer to God. Like there is so many benefits that come from my life with the hunting, but yet like none of that impacts anybody really other than me and like my immediate family. And I've always like kind of felt like I've been like called to lead and to like I've kind of had just like this mantle of leadership on me. And I haven't like, to be completely honest, like I really haven't, like I've been going to church for a long time, but I haven't like in any capacity really been like involved in the church. And I kind of started a men's group last year, might have even been 2 years ago, but and we didn't meet like a whole lot of times, but basically, it was the guys that I decided that I needed to do something. So I created this men's group that just like kind of in an effort to gather up some of my friends and just in some capacity, like talk about God, like try to draw them in. And it was relatively successful, right? Like we had some like really good discussions and like kind of some breakthrough moments with a couple of the guys. And it was impactful, and I saw the benefit from that, but it kind of, a couple of the guys moved away and life really kind of got busy. And so I admittedly, like I just kind of quit having them. And so I was, as we were like getting on towards hunting season, I was kind of like just like chewing this all up and thinking about it and like trying to find that balance between my love and my pursuit and my passion of the outdoors, and at the same time like being present as a father and a husband and a leader, and most importantly like somehow giving back and like giving glory to God, because I've been so fortunate in my life. I have so many blessings that I don't feel like I deserve, like at all. Like I have an amazing life, and I have done very little to deserve that, for lack of better words, right? Like I've pretty well screwed up everything personally, and yet here I have like this amazing life that I get to live. And that kind of bothered me, honestly, like because I don't feel like I've done anything to deserve what I have, right? And I just feel like at any given moment, like that could all just disappear, like that could all just be gone.
Yeah. And
so I'm really kind of like thinking about this, and my elder gave me this little book to read, and it's all about finding your purpose, basically. And he's like, I want you to read this book 31 days in a row. It's just a little book. And he's like, it will change your life. I was like, okay, yeah, like bet. He's like, he gave me a challenge. He threw down a challenge, and I'm pretty competitive. And so he's like, I have only had like one or two people actually read this every day for 31 days. And I'm like, oh, bet, dude.
You
I
better
will
believe
do
I'm
it.
going to do it.
Yeah.
Just
And
read
so
all
I
that
started
day.
reading this book, and I was a few days into it, and I immediately, like, the book was very impactful, just like right out of the gate. It's not really even a book. It's just like almost like a pamphlet. It's like 30 pages or something like that. And I got the opportunity to there was kind of like a string, like a chain of events that all kind of like unfolded that was just like pretty incredible. And I got the opportunity to go up to Alaska and go fishing last year on the Kenai for sockeyes with a group from our church, and really solid guys. Just like there's a couple of our friends. They bought a cabin like right on the river, and they've got a couple boats up there. It's just like a phenomenal experience, right? And my dad goes up every year. He's been going up every year fishing for my entire life. Like he's only missed a handful of years. And I've gone up there a few times, but it'd been a couple years since I had been up there. And so kind of like, it was kind of like a last minute deal. My dad's like, hey, I think you can go if you want to go. And I had just had a daughter. My second daughter had just been kind of like born a couple months before that. And I was like, so I'm all like asking my wife, I'm like, hey, like I got this opportunity, and it's, like, would you mind if I went for like 4 days? And she's like, my wife is awesome. Like, she's like, whatever, knock yourself out, like, have fun. And so I was like, all right, sweet. So we got plane tickets bought, flew up there. My dad picked me up, and the fishing was, it was just incredible, man. I mean, like, there was so many fish in the river, like, you couldn't miss. It was
a different world up there.
Oh, dude, it was, and especially last year. I mean, the run was just record shattering. It was crazy, just mind-boggling how many fish there were. We were.
I'd say, how many fish were you? How long was it taking you to catch your fish, and how many was it? Because I remember you calling me every day.
I mean, we were cherry picking big ones, and like we'd catch our limit in. Like,
now,
I can't remember.
Were you catching them or snagging them?
Snagging them, flossing them. I mean, I think there was, I can't remember exactly. There was like 9 guys up there, and like we were limited out within like an hour and a half, like every morning.
You could catch
6,
I thought. Yeah.
And so, I mean, dude, it was unreal. But like in Alaska, you've got in the summer, like you've got eons and gobs of daylight. So we were waking up at like 4 o'clock and 3:30 in the morning to get to the gravel bar that we wanted. And, we got all our fish cleaned, everything wrapped up and done by 8 o'clock in the morning. And that afforded us a whole lot of time to just kind of sit around the cabin and fellowship and talk about God. And I was really fortunate, like I was surrounded with some men that were very, like, had a very strong, like, grounding in the Lord. And so we got to talking one day, and there's an awesome guy that goes to our church that kind of spearheads this Wednesday morning Bible study that the church puts on. It's like at the church, it's a men's gathering. It's an awesome, like, it is a phenomenal Wednesday morning Bible study, essentially, is what it is. And fellowship. And I have been going to a Bible study on Tuesday mornings, right? And it's great. It's small. It's just like a couple of us, but even through that, like, there's been just incredible things that have happened in relationships that I've built. But he started putting some heat on me. One of the guys from the church, he's like, when are you gonna start coming to Wednesday mornings? And I was like, because my dad attends on Wednesday mornings. He's like, you need to come with your dad. And I was like, yeah, like, I should. And he's like, so you gonna come? And I was like, yeah, I'll come. I said, as soon as we get back from Alaska, I'm going over to visit my best friend over east. So I'm going to miss the first week. I said, but I'll be there on the second week.
And I want to point out, it's extremely hard to recruit somebody to come to Bible study.
Sure.
Yeah, as we've discovered.
It really, really is.
Sure.
Like, nobody wants, they think that, well, I go to church on Sunday.
Yeah,
I don't need to go to another event or another,
Yeah.
meeting.
Sure.
And
yeah, it's so important to get yourself connected with a group of men.
Absolutely.
Like, even if you don't attend church, which you should, even if you don't attend church, like, you should be in some kind of a men's group. Like, it's so
life-changing,
critically important.
Fellowshipping with like-minded believers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is your church.
100%. For sure. 100%. And so he's like, I mean, the whole 4 days, he's like, you better be there. I'm like, all right, man. Like, I'll be there. So it was just an incredible trip and an incredible experience. Like once again, like in the outdoors in Alaska. I mean, Alaska is just a different animal to begin with, and it was just an incredible experience. I was really fortunate to go, really lucky, just blessed. And I came home and basically immediately like packed the family up and headed over here.
Yeah.
And once again, we just had like just an incredible time. Your wife had a cow tag and your dad had a cow tag. And my little daughter, who was like 2.5, was kind of all about it.
Yeah.
And we ended up killing a couple elk. And my
Pretty-
daughter was there for all of it, you know, and like it was just it was your wife's first elk.
Yep. Her first big game animal
Yeah,
of any
ever.
kind.
Yep.
Yeah. And
She absolutely rolled it offhand at like 75 yards, like walked right into it. It was crazy. It was cool.
We'll have to put some pictures on up on here.
We'll
there's
put some pictures
some phenomenal pictures of Addie, your daughter, sitting on on the back of this.
She wants to ride anytime I kill something, like she wants to ride it, dude. Like she just like
that's
gets up there.
My 4-year-old same way.
Oh, dude.
Hey, I want to ride an elk.
I killed my
one
buck.
first.
She named the buck that I killed this year. She named that buck Jimmy. Like that was its name was Jimmy. Like before I killed it. Yeah. She's like, I was like, Addie, what should we call this buck? She's like, Jimmy. I was like, all right, dude. So my wife was there. She heard it. So like my wife started referring to it as Jimmy. When I killed this buck, I'm like driving down the mountain. I call my wife. I was like, you're never going to believe it. I killed Jimmy. And
that sounds terrible.
And Addie's like, she's in the background. She's like, Dad, bring me home, Jimmy. I was like, all right. So I get home and this is a total rabbit trail sidebar, but it's awesome. So I get home and I like pull and like unload and everything out of the 4Runner, and I like put my pack on the porch and like the horns are still in my pack and everything, and Addie's like standing on the porch. She's like, Dad, where's the rest of him? And I'm like, well, honey, he was up in the woods. Like,
she's like,
I had to cut him up and back him out. She's like, well, how am I supposed to ride him? I was like, I don't know, man. Like,
up on the pack.
Ride my back. I was like, how about you just hold his head? She's like, I was like, you can poke his eyeball. She's like, all right. Like,
I'll settle for that.
She's like, I'll settle for that. So, So at any rate, it was just, but so she was there, and it was just an epic, awesome experience.
We had a fantastic weekend.
Oh,
I think it took us 2 days, but my wife killed her elk first, and then my dad killed one, I don't know, half hour after that. Mm-hmm. Maybe not even that long. Mm-hmm. And you know, we spent the day getting them out of there, and and then then I think we went and did some bear hunting.
We did some berry picking. Oh well, we went berry picking first. I mean, the whole point of the trip was like shoot some elk, pick a bunch of huckleberries, and kill a bear, you know, if we could. And so it was, and the whole time, like I was still reading that book every day, or maybe I had just finished it. I can't remember. It was one of the two. I was either still reading it or I just finished it, the 31 days.
Yeah.
And this whole time, like, I'm still like having this like mental struggle internal. Like I'm thinking about it a lot. I'm like, I have got to find some way to give back.
Yeah. And you were calling me pretty much every day. I mean, you and I pretty much talk every day regardless.
Yeah.
But it was apparent to me that this was something that you were wrestling with. I mean, we would talk about this for an hour a day.
Yeah.
You know, about kind of, you know, how blessed we've been to have this passion.
Yeah.
But how can we use it for the glory of God in some way?
How do you turn hunting that's a kind of lonesome and selfish pursuit? Like how do you spin that to where you give glory to God, right? Like, and not just for yourself, but how do you further the kingdom of the Lord using that as a tool, right?
Exactly.
And this is something that I was like, just like kind of thinking about, and me and Nick were talking about it, and I was telling him, I was like, you know, like how many people, like what do people, and I'm reading this book, like, and everything is just kind of building on top of itself. And I was like, what's the driving passion? What's your purpose? Like, what is your I asked this to Nick. I was like, what's your overarching purpose in your life? Like, what drives you? He's like, well, hunting in the outdoors, right? Like, that's why he does what he does. And I was like, yes. I was like, I'm the same way. I was like, how many people do you know that just lack passion in their lives? Like they do not have something that they're passionate about. And he's like, lots.
Most.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, like, how do you tip somebody? I was like, how many people do you also know that like are right on that like teeter totter of like, they're like one crazy experience away from like their lives being radically changed by the outdoors. I was like, how many people do you know like that? Lots, you know. I was like, how do you tip people over the edge, right? Like, how do you help somebody like develop that passion and that desire? And so we're picking huckleberries, you know, like talking about this. Nick's listening to me ramble on, and you know, we talked about it for like quite a while, and kind of like finished picking huckleberries, and then went home and kind of got reorganized and decided we're going to go up bear hunting because bear season just opened. And so we're driving up there, and like it's a long drive, like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
We're bombing up there, like, and we're just talking, you know, just like kind of enjoying each other's fellowship. And just
2 hours of a very rough road.
And, yeah, long rough road.
Yeah,
Lots of time to talk.
Yep.
Don't know where fast.
Yep.
And we get, you know, like we get out this ridge, you know, and didn't kill a bear that night, but it was pretty cool, you know, experience, like beautiful place. And the story will like come back, but I was sitting on the same rock that you were sitting on, Seth. And, you know, like it was just a good day, right? Like it was just a good day, good conversation, just like kind of just a good day. Didn't kill a bear though. And so we, you know, like we bombed back to town. And the next day, that was on like a Saturday. And I think on Sunday,
I don't remember, but we did decide to go huckleberry picking.
we did. We decided we were going to go pick more huckleberries, and we were going to drive home on Sunday after we got done berry picking.
Yep.
So I was trying to like keep all the details organized here. But you asked me, you're like, hey, like I got this other buddy and his wife. Like, do you care if they come? And I was like, no, like that, perfect. Yeah, like that sounds good. More the berry, you know. We'll pick huckleberries, best around in the mountains. And so we headed up like to the mountains, and once again, like it's a good drive from here, you know, like it's a ways,
like an hour.
Yeah. And so we drove 3 rigs because we were going to meet you guys up there, Seth, and then
you guys were already up there.
Yeah, you guys were up there.
I think we're
just in front of
up
us
there just a little bit.
Yeah.
And
just
waited for
you and your wife drove up, and then me and my family drove up, and we were just going to everybody was just going to kind of split ways after we were done berry picking. Well, we're driving up this road, and you got your dog in the back.
Yep.
And we had a jug of antifreeze in the back.
Yep.
And you had a hitch in the back.
Yep. Yep.
And driving up this mountain road, like we stopped when we linked up with you. We stopped, and
that's right. We came from the other side of the mountain.
Yeah.
So we had already picked some and drove a while, and that's right.
Yep.
And we
start picking huckleberries, right? We all joined up.
Well, we had just like linked up, you know, and we were kind of sitting there talking, and you had got out of your truck, and you were like talking to Seth, and before you climbed back in your rig, you like walked over and you're like looking in the bed of your pickup, and all of a sudden, like I see this panic in your face, and you're like, and you look at me and you're like, dude, I think my dog, that hitch and popped a hole in that antifreeze bottle and it leaked all over the bed of your truck.
Yeah.
And you looked at me and you're like, dude, I think my dog like drank the antifreeze.
Slurping up antifreeze.
Yeah, we're all smelling the dog's breath.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I don't
Are you
smell
serious?
anything.
And you're like, yeah. And so you were like obviously worried because like you have an awesome dog, and you care, like obviously like you care about him. And so we drive up the road just a little bit further. We get out and like we start picking huckleberries, and you're like watching them, and you're like, hey, like I think I need to take my dog to the vet. And we're like, yeah, like, by all means, you know. And you're like, sorry to just like, you're like, Nick, this is Seth, or Zach, this is Seth, Seth, this is Zach. Like, have fun, like, peace out. I gotta go. And so you and your wife load up and drive down the mountain. And like, I'd never like, I didn't know you at all. I mean, I didn't know you from Adam. And so like we're like, and our kids are all running around, you know, and our wives like start talking, and you and me are like picking huckleberries, you know. And
in sidebar, by the way, I learned that day, if your dog ever drinks antifreeze, you just got to get him drunk. We took him to the vet.
Alcohol is what?
Yeah, we took him to the vet, and they didn't have the antidote for antifreeze, whatever it is.
Yeah, what does it do to their liver?
It causes some kind of buildup in their liver, or excuse me, in their kidneys.
Yeah,
it crystallizes in their kidneys and will kill them. And if you don't realize, it might not kill them right there, but it'll kill them in like 2 weeks. And
no symptoms or side effects.
Yeah.
They just dropped dead.
exactly.
They literally
Exactly.
like gave your dog a shot of Everclear, didn't they?
They literally put him on
An
IV of Everclear for 2 days.
He was wasted.
I have never paid so much for a bottle of Everclear in my life. The guy, I got charged like $600 or $700 just for him to get my dog drunk.
Yeah.
And yeah, anyway, it was crazy. Like
Yeah.
when he came back and he's running into walls and just
Boone was having a good old time.
his breath
Yeah.
smells like alcohol, right? You
Yeah.
go to lick you, it smelled like an alcoholic licking you.
Yeah,
But
not where you want to
anyway.
be when Jesus comes.
No. No,
And but so like I knew Nick had told me that you like built a wheeler, and
Yeah.
I love off-roading, like secondary to my hunting passion.
Yeah,
I love off-roading stuff, and so like
I'd almost make it number one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we just kind of like immediately we just kind of like hit it
Started
off,
talking
right?
about that.
Yeah, we were just talking about like off-road and then like how he built his rig and like we just, it was just like he was immediately, I knew that he was just like a good guy and like we had good conversation, but like didn't talk about God
Yeah.
like in any
I had a mouth
capacity,
like a sailor. I mean,
yeah.
I'd catch myself being like, oh my gosh, shouldn't be talking like this.
Well, yeah. And so but like it was just, we just had a good time. Like we just kind of got to know each other on just like a,
surface
just
level.
like, yeah, surface level. And we had some like similar passions. And so it was easy for us to find things to talk about.
Yeah.
And we picked huckleberries for a couple hours. And then it was like, all right, it's like, we went home and you went home and that was just kind of like the end of it. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was on a Sunday. And, I like, you were like, I mean, you were obviously like a good dude, but like there was no like, yeah, you were just a good guy, like, oh yeah. I was like, I'm sure I'll spend more time with him at some point in time. And that was just kind of like the end of it. Like I didn't spend the next several days just like thinking about you, or like anything like that.
Hit me up on something and talk,
Yeah.
None of that.
None of that. And so on Wednesday, trying to be true to my word, I went to that Wednesday morning Bible study. And that was the first one that I had attended, like after I got back from Alaska. And I'm sitting there and they sing like a couple songs, just like a group of men gathered around, like playing guitar, just like singing, but like, yeah, praising God, right? Just nothing special, just praising God. And it was awesome, right? Like, and I just like got filled with the presence of the Lord. And I was like, man, like this is a pretty cool group, like, and we had a great morning, and sometime in there, I just like, the Lord just laid you on my heart. And the Lord, like, he gave me very specific and clear direction. Like it was powerful, man. Like, so I get out, like we get Bible study wrapped up and I walk out to my truck, and before I even like started my truck, like I'm calling Nick, and I called him up. I was like, hey, you got a second to talk? And he's like, yeah. So I start telling him, I'm like, dude, I just got like a very, very clear word of the Lord. I said, like, I'm quite positive that I heard this clearly. And I said, I heard that I am supposed to tell you to, I asked him, I was like, have you told Seth like your testimony? And you're like, no. I was like, well, have you talked to him about God? And he's like, yeah, like a little bit, but like we haven't really got like deep about any of that stuff. And I told him, I was like, the Lord told me like very specifically that you need to get with Seth and you need to tell him your testimony and you need to pray for him. Because, and this is what I told Nick. I told him, I said, the Lord like highlighted to me that Seth is at like a critical and like a pivotal point in time in his life, that the reason like your guys' Nick and Seth's.
I want to clear up. We've yet to talk about any of this.
Okay.
So like
yeah.
this is
this
is the first time I'm hearing his side of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
We haven't really got together since then.
Yeah. Huh. And so the Lord highlighted like these things to me. Like he told me to tell Nick to like whatever, and then he highlighted these specific things to me. He told me that Seth was going through like a pivotal point in time in his life. that Nick and Seth like meeting was like by design. Like it was not an accident, that it was exactly how it was meant to be, that it was how it was like supposed to play out. And that Nick was going to be like a critical and key component, like the tool that the Lord used basically to help guide Seth. Like that's like kind of like what I told Nick. And I was like, dude, like I heard it very clear. Like I was like, I don't know like what you guys got going on. And at the time I didn't know, I don't think I knew, or maybe I did know that you were, because this is all right almost exactly when you started working at Living Water. Like to the week. I think you started on Monday and this was Wednesday.
Very early, very early.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it was right when you started, so right when we began working together.
Yeah.
And to be clear, like I knew that what you were telling me was wholeheartedly true for a number of reasons, obviously, but one of them being that Emma and I had routinely talked about this, right? And she, I got to give credit where it's due. Emma repeatedly was like, McKenna and Seth are in our lives for a reason. Like this
and
was,
me and Nick had not talked about this.
No. And she would tell me like once a week, like we met them for a reason. Like I don't know what it is. And I knew this. I was like, okay, whatever. But I didn't know, like, I didn't feel like I had ever had any real direction from the Lord pertaining to our relationship in any way, or anything surrounding Seth, as much as I hate to say that. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And so I didn't really feel like I had a direction or any specific thing that I needed to obey at that time.
Sure.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, continue.
So, like and Nick's like, well, like I kind of feel the same way. Like I've kind of been feeling that way myself. And he's like, Seth's been asking me to go bear hunting, but like, I don't know him that well. And like, I don't really want to take him to like one of my good spots, you know, type of deal, because, you know, like I just, you got to hold your cards close, right? Like
the bear hunting in particular,
bear hunting spots are,
it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart. Right?
You are a bear killer.
It's like I have spent almost a decade, you know, finding these few spots that I like to bear hunt. Right?
And they're very producing.
Yeah, there's a lot of bears that die.
And I had asked him like, hey, we should go on a bear hunt or something. He's like, no offense, but it's not my spot to take you.
Sure.
And I mean, sure, maybe one day we can go find a spot. But I don't really hunt with people.
Yeah.
Like I've got a very tight knit group of people that know my areas and we hunt with, but he's like, just like you and your shed hunting spots where you don't take people because it gets blown out. Same reason I'm not, like, no offense to you. I don't take people to my spots.
And that's exactly, you know, like that's the conversation me and he had. Yeah. And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, dude, I don't know other than to tell you that I feel like I have, like, I had a very clear word from the Lord, and this is what he told me to tell you. So I was like, do with that what you will.
And I was immediately like, dang it, I gotta take Seth bear hunting.
Yeah.
It was like super clear to me, like that was what I needed to do.
So that was on a Wednesday morning, and then me and Nick did not talk until the following Sunday, the next Sunday. And
this guy just has it all memorized.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Huh?
This was powerful for me. And so me and Nick like didn't talk. Like we just kind of like went our own directions, you know, like life busy. And so I and that was just kind of like the end of the thought process for me, like that specific thing. Like I was just like, I told Nick what I felt like I was supposed to tell him, and I was like, figure I'd hear about it later, you know, like. And so I just kind of carried on with my week. I was trying to finish up this big excavation project, and right around in there sometime is when I picked those big sheds up. Actually, like I mean, there was just like in my life it was just like just so many different things happening at one time. And that Sunday, so I was in church and still kind of like contemplating like the whole what's my purpose thing and like all this, and how can I you know, what am I supposed to do? And I was sitting in church on Sunday, And oftentimes when I encounter the Lord, it's in worship, right? Like it just, for whatever reason, music powerfully affects me. And I was sitting in worship, we're like a couple songs deep, and the Lord gave me like the craziest revelation, just like full blown like visions, direction, just like full blown revelation, like basically laid out my entire purpose to me in that moment. And it was like, it was extremely powerful to me. And there was there's basically three things that the Lord told. There's one thing that the Lord told me, and then he broke it down into three specific parts. He told me that my passion for the outdoors and my overarching, overwhelming passion for the outdoors was by design, that it was God-given, and that it was the tool that I was to use to essentially like further his kingdom. Like that's like kind of like what he started off by highlighting to me. He then like very specifically gave me three things. He said, you are to create a platform that first and foremost has a podcast that shares people's testimonies as it pertains to the outdoors in God, like clear as day. Like that is the first thing that I want you to do. Second part of that was that this platform is to have localized chapters of like men's groups, like iron sharpening iron, like Bible study type groups, if you will, but specifically like people that love the outdoors, that kind of identify with the outdoors in the Lord. And then the third thing was that it was to have like some kind of like a national ramification of like there was going to be like a national part to it as well, like some kind of like web-based something. That one was not near as clear as the other two, but like it was like, it was very clearly, I mean, like it was, I cannot explain how I felt in that moment. Like it was divine. And like he told me this, and so I'm like, I'm seeing all this crazy stuff, and just like powerfully overcome by the Spirit. And so like church service, I mean, it felt like it was over like that. Like I don't think I listened to a single word of the message. Like I was just like, my brain is just like, and like all I want to do is just call Nick. I was like, he was just like immediately highlighted in this whole thing. I was like, I have got to call Nick. Like church gets out, and like I collect my family, whatever, like we go home. First thing I do is like go into my room, and I'm like, and I know he's busy on Sundays, right? Like I don't exactly know when he goes to church. So like I didn't want to like call him in the middle of church service. So I like shot him a text, and I was like, dude, I just received the craziest revelation from the Lord. Like when you get a chance, you got to call me. And so
I was in church when you texted me.
He texted me back, and he's like, all right, dude, like bet, like I get a busy day, but I'll like, we'll talk real soon. So I was like, okay. And I mean, I was just like, dude, I was just like wandering around the property, just like starstruck. I was like, I don't know. And so it was a busy Sunday, whatever, right? Like he didn't call me. I think you called me the next morning. I think it was like Monday morning. And you called me, and you're like, hey, like, what's up? You know, like what happened? Like what's this revelation? And so I told you basically everything that I just explained, right? Like the church part of it. And you're like, dude, that's crazy. I have your first podcast episode.
Yeah.
And you guys could take it from there.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember how this all panned out, but I think it was on Thursday. I think it was the day after, you called me talking about Seth. Seth's like, you want to go bear hunting? Right? And Seth's I was like, heck yeah, man, let's do it. Obviously this guy had a change of heart for some reason. So anyway, so we go out and I pick up Seth and we're bombing up this long, horrible, bumpy road, the same spot that you and I went to, the exact same draw, everything. And on the drive up there, like, I know that I have like some purpose in all this, but I don't know what it is, right?
I think it's crazy to sit here and listen to it to see how like a man who's clearly received the Holy Spirit is using you as a mediator to get to me, who clearly has not.
Yeah, the whole thing is wild, and like it gets even crazier in my eyes. But like, but I'm just like, okay, and I prayed about it beforehand, and I'm just like, Lord, like if you want me to work, like use me, like however that is. So anyway, I pick you up, and we're bumping up this horrible long road for an hour and a half or however long it is.
Yeah. And we're just talking about
we're just
kind of my coming up, kind of like what I talked about with my dad being a preacher and just kind of all that stuff.
Yeah, but none of that was like forced or intentional, right? Like I wasn't like, so tell me about your faith. It was just we were just talking like we normally would, and faith and Christ and everything that goes along with that just kind of started flowing out.
And I think at that time I was seeking. You know what I mean?
Yes, you were at a pivotal point in your
that
or God was knocking. I just hadn't opened the door.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and we had
I'm like peeking through the blinds. He's out there,
And we had just a fantastic conversation. Like I felt the same way you were talking about. Like I felt just like filled with the Spirit the whole time. Like I'm like immediately like I'm not trying to do anything here, but like the Lord is clearly at work.
And Nick's getting deep and personal, with that conversation. And I was like
sharing his testimony and like his struggles and
right, like all the things that we've talked about in previous podcasts,
struggles that men have that we share, we don't talk about, and we were getting deep.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean everything, like drinking, chewing, cussing, porn addiction, like just the list goes on and on and on, and and we just had a fantastic conversation about all of it. And I think those were all things that most men struggle with in some way or another, and these were all things that we'd both been working on in some capacity, right? And I don't remember the entire conversation, to be completely honest, but we had, it was just fantastic.
Yeah. When I talked to you on the
gears
phone,
were turning, to say the least.
Yeah.
When I talked to you on the phone, you were like, dude, the conversation was like exactly, like it played out almost exactly word for word, like you told me that it was going to. Like, it was just like, you're like, it was crazy, like, and that's what you said, is you guys just had like phenomenal conversation on the way up there. Like,
like just fellowship, just time talking about the Lord. And
this is like the first time that you guys had ever like
hung out one-on-one.
I
think.
And like really got deep. Like,
yeah, definitely our first time without our wives.
Right. Right. And we, like you said, we had never talked about any of this, anything deep in any manner. I mean, it's the nature of men to be like somewhat
pretty reserved,
and not want to talk about feelings and all the stuff that goes
something I've always struggled with, even with my wife, like emotions and feelings.
As a man, like, that is one of our chief problems, right? Is like we're pretty closed books.
Like I never know how you're feeling.
And so like the fact that we had this, two guys that admittedly don't like talking about any of this.
And don't really know each other.
Right. Not very well. Like we knew who each other were, right? We'd gone to church together a couple times, that kind of thing. But that was pretty much the extent of it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you got two guys that are just like laying their whole lives out there, right?
All their dirty laundry.
Everything. Yeah. I mean, everything. And
stuff that, I hadn't talked to my wife about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Stuff that in his young relationship with his wife, they have talked about, which was super impactful to him. The way he's seen things and things that he was doing, and something that he was like, have you talked about this stuff with your wife? I'm like, no. Like, why would I? That's crazy.
Sure.
Yeah. So fast forward, we get to where we're going, and we get to this big canyon, and like I said, it was where you and I had just gone.
Yeah.
And we had seen a bear in there, but had not killed it.
Yeah.
And
when you and me were in there.
Yeah, exactly. And so I told Seth, well, there's kind of two different big draws here. We can split this up however you want. There's like one big finger ridge.
We said a prayer at the top, Bo, before we hopped out of the pickup.
Yes.
You had said a prayer, just like, watch over us, keep us safe. Thanks for the fellowshipping time and being together.
Good hunting.
And that was another thing. I was like, man, I've never had a buddy that we're hunting and we're praying. It was more like, let's drink some beers on the way up the mountain and hop out and see if we can't kill some crap.
Yeah. And so anyway, after we pray, we're kind of trying to figure out where to go. And there's this, it's like one big giant canyon, if you will, but there's a big couple of different
there's kind of like
ridges.
a finger ridge that runs down, and then there's like the main ridge runs down, and then there's a couple fingers that kind of shoot off.
I mean, these are
Exactly.
the breaks.
Exactly. Yeah, it's big giant breaks, 3,000-foot canyons, all that kind of stuff. But
and I'm thinking we're gonna be hunting together.
Yeah.
I'm coming into this like, oh sweet, yeah, we're gonna be hunting together.
Yeah, and so I kind of tell Seth, like, look, I'm probably gonna drop down this ridge. I wanted to go look into this one draw that I hadn't been into that specific draw yet this year, but I wanted to go look in there. I said, you can come with me, or you can go into this next canyon over.
And like, I recommend you going down to this rock and watching this side.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what am I looking for? Like, this is just like brush. There's hardly any timber. And he's like, that's where they're at. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So he's like, just go sit down there and just keep right at, listen.
Sit on that rock.
Mostly listen. Like, you'll hear them in the brush.
Exactly. And most of it's like, it's all food sources, right? So there's a variety of kind of pockets of food in there, right? Between like hawthorn berries and choke cherries and huckleberries and all this kind of stuff. And so these are just places that we found over the years that like these bears consistently move into these little draws. They come up out of these up out of these thick, nasty creek bottoms, and you'll catch them coming into these kind of still thick draws, but to where you can catch them. And
this is my first time ever going out and looking for a bear. Like, sure, I drove and I've seen bears on this road and drive road hunting for them and stuff, but never intentionally
hunted bears.
Yeah, and to this point, like like I said, this has been something that I've been passionate about for a number of years.
Nick is a bear killer. Like, the bears receive a beat down when Nick is.
There'll be a spring bear killed and both fall bears killed. Like every year.
But we've between me and a couple of guys that I kind of used to do it with when I first moved over here, I mean, between the three of us, I think we've killed 25 bears in those
lots
few
of
canyons.
bears,
like a pile. And
he's like, and you don't say a word about I took you here.
I was still pretty reserved about.
Here we are.
Like, there's no social media posts. Like, unless you can't see any background,
Yeah. So anyway, Seth's like, all right, whatever. So I'm like, just go down there, sit on that rock, and look at all that stuff. And oftentimes you'll hear them before you ever see them. But like, you'll see them anywhere from 50 yards to 500 yards.
And there's no cell service in this country.
No. And
I want to say, when I got down to that rock, there was a pile of brass.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's a good sign.
Yeah. We've killed a few bears off of that rock. Yeah. And so he's like, all right. So he goes down there and sits, and I go drop down the next draw, and we can't really see each other. We're like,
you're like
just
right
barely.
Over
there's kind of a ridge in between.
Just barely over this little ridge top. And so, we had kind of talked about trying to communicate with like hand signals and that kind of stuff. If one of us was to shoot something, or, if one of us sees a bear, start waving your hat and hope the other guy can see you, that kind of thing.
And we kind of got to our spots about the same time.
Yep. So I get down to I get over to that next draw. It takes me 20, 30 minutes or whatever to get over there. And I sit down and I start glassing. And
go ahead. I want to say what I did right before.
Yeah, I will.
If it's the right time.
Yeah. So I get down there, and
I think Nick needs to tell his part first.
Yeah. I just didn't want to get too far into it.
No, we won't.
Yeah. So I get down there and I start glassing, and it took me 2 minutes. All of a sudden I glass up a bear in this choke cherry tree, and he's moving all around and, clearly chowing, standing up on his hind legs, doing all sorts of stuff, but it's kind of thick and I couldn't see very good. It's like 350 yards, roughly, somewhere in there.
Yeah, not very far.
And so anyway, I lay down, dial up, and I'm waiting for a good shot. It's super thick, right? And like in this country, you run the risk of losing them quick if you don't take whatever shot opportunity you get. And so, admittedly, like sometimes you take some not so fantastic shot opportunities just because of the fact that it's all you're going to get. And so anyway, this bear kind of pops up, and all of a sudden I can just see like part of its head, its neck, and like the very front of its shoulder. And so anyway, I take the shot, and I'm shooting a suppressed 6.5 PRC, and I see the bullet hit it. I see, I hear it, and I see the bear fold and just start cartwheeling down the hill. And so I'm like,
Sick.
Sweet, yeah, like
Dead
we
bear.
smoked one, and part of immediately I'm also like, oh man, I feel bad. Like I should have brought Seth down here, right? Like, admittedly, like you have an equal, in my eyes at least, you have an equal chance of seeing a bear in either one of these
Yeah,
spots.
yeah.
But I was like, oh dang it! But I didn't feel comfortable waiting
Yeah.
to get
You just
Seth
had to
over
take.
there.
I mean, you
It's
just had
like
to take advantage of opportunities.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
And I'm an opportunistic hunter.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. You have to take the opportunity that's given to you. Like if you're trying to fill pegs.
Yeah, and this is something Nick is opposite of me of. Like, I'm just wanting to go out in the woods. I don't care if I kill something. You know, like I had a good time. Regardless, we had great conversation. We went bear hunting. Like
Yeah.
for me to kill something, that'd be awesome. Cherry on top, you know. But it's not something that like eats me up.
Sure.
Whereas like Nick's a killer.
Yeah.
Nick goes out and he's like, man, we didn't kill anything. I'm mad. You know.
Yeah.
And like I still enjoy the experience, but yeah, like I wouldn't
man,
be out there if I wasn't trying to.
Man,
kill
that
something.
sucks. We didn't kill something, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, got out of the house, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just a good time.
Yeah.
So
anyway, so I shoot the bear, and then I can just kind of go to your side of the story.
yeah, I get down to the rock, and this is before the shot, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking around and I'm like, well, I don't really know how to look for bears in this stuff, so I'm just about to start glassing. And I was like, before that, I'm just gonna pray for an opportunity. So I was like, Lord, please just give Nick or I the opportunity at a bear. And that was a pretty simple prayer at the time, you know. I wasn't very far in my faith. And amen. And as I say amen, it's and I was like, was that a shot? Because it being suppressed, and
Yep.
I'd never been around a suppressed gun like
Yep.
in person. So I was like, it seemed like it was really far away, but he does shoot suppressed, so it's gonna be quiet. And so I like stand up, and I'm like probably about to blow my cover here for a bear coming out, and I'm all standing up and glass up where Nick went, and I see him walk up on the ridge and starts waving me over, and I was like, you know, gave him the signal, and so I packed my stuff up and walked over the ridge to him, and I get up there, I was like, that quick? He's like, yeah, as soon as I got over here, I looked down and a bear was, you know, rummaging around in the bushes and gave me a shot, and I whacked it and it just took off rolling. I was like, heck yeah, man, great job. I was like, I literally just prayed like for an opportunity, and as I closed in prayer, I heard the gun. He's like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, now it's my turn. Let's double up.
Nick told me.
And
he's like, yeah, like when we linked up, he's like, Seth kind of looked like a little shook up, like kind of like something happened to him, and then like you told him, you're like, dude, like I swear, like I finished praying, and like as I finished, like as I said amen, the gun, like the shot rang out. And Nick's like, he's like, you said, he's like you're like, that wasn't coincidence, like there's no way, like that was crazy, like that doesn't happen, like that was not coincidental.
Yeah. And so I'm like, man, it's time to double up. And Nick's like laughing. He's like, yeah,
it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Like the odds of 2 bears in 1 draw type of deal, you know, it's super slim.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, let's go find this thing. And I was like, where is it? He's like, took off rolling somewhere from here to probably down there. Like, I don't know.
We're just in the bottom of the canyon.
And it's just bushes and hawthorn and it's thick. So we start working our way across there. And we get to this other ridge, and I mean, I think we both look down at the same time, and it's just, we both look down, and here's another bear coming right up the same exact draw that he just whacked this one in. And I'm like, dude, Nick, bear, there's your bear. And I thought it was his bear, like he wounded it, and it was still down there. And he's like, pulls up, and he's like,
I'm like, it's
a different bear. Here. And, you know, he hands me his gun, and we're trying to get the tripods all set up and stuff, and he was like fully zoomed out.
Okay.
And so like I put it up there, and I mean, he's tiny in the crosshairs, and I'm like, how far? And he's like 288 or something. And
I dialed.
I torched one off, and he kind of like trots into the draw, and I was like, did I hit him? He's like, I don't think so. I was like, oh, bummer. I was like, dude, he's probably gone. And Nick said, I never saw him go back down the draw. Like he's still coming up, like he didn't even hear it or something. I don't know that he ran or if he just like walked
literally
in.
just walked into the same draw that the bear that I shot rolled into. Yeah,
like this bear had no idea we were there. You know, just shot and missed him by probably inches.
Yeah.
And he didn't know. And so I was like, we're all looking around waiting to see him. And Nick's like, all right, get ready. Maybe we moved in a little closer.
We moved down just a little bit down the hill.
Moved a little closer right to the edge of this draw.
Uh-huh.
This bear went in, and there's a great big round rock there. And Nick's like, all right,
I'm like, get on the gun.
get on the gun, get ready. I'm gonna throw this big rock down there, and we'll see if it comes out the other side. I'm like, oh
Nick
gosh.
particularly likes to flush bears with rocks.
Yeah,
I was like-
I've killed many.
It's
dude.
one of his. It's one of his
That's like-
secret tools.
So we're about to jump shoot this thing. You know? So
Yeah.
he rolls this rock, and I'm not expecting anything. Dude, this bear comes just busting out the other side of this draw full speed, and Nick's like, bah, you know, and it just stops in its tracks and looks back, and I'm rested up, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what is he? He's like 244, and you know, he uses a veracity, so I just dotted 244, and this thing just does front flips, you know, just cartwheeling for like,
Long ways.
yeah, 300-400 yards down this hill, just boom, 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 and I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is gonna be tore up.
Yeah.
And those things are insane. Like,
Yeah.
no damage, no sign that this thing just rolled down
Bears are
this
tough,
rocky.
dude. They're
Yeah,
pretty
steep stuff.
resilient.
And
Yeah.
so he's like, dude, that was insane. 2 bears in the same draw. Like, are you kidding me? And I was all shook up. I was like, dude, that was awesome. Like, never even, you know, I've never seen 2 bears together, let alone, you know, kill 2 of
Kill
them.
them
And
both.
And this was your
Yeah.
first bear, right?
this, first bear hunt. And I was like, dude, that's insane.
Just
So,
incredible.
Yeah.
How far apart were they when they died?
Like 200 yards.
Yeah.
yeah, not far.
Pretty close.
His came like rolling down, and mine went clear to the bottom. It was actually pretty tough getting it up to
Yeah,
where
I bet
his
it
bear
was. That
Yeah,
was probably
I've
a pretty
actually,
good hook.
I actually have pictures of we strapped the entire bear.
Yeah, I use a full curl system,
Uh-huh.
horn hunter pack, and
Uh-huh.
we had this thing like sitting in the bottom bucket of it, just full bear in the
We'll have to
on my
post some
back,
pictures.
and
Yeah. Seth got it most of the way out of there because we were
Yeah.
trying to get both bears together. Because
Yeah.
how often do you get an opportunity to take
Kill
two
two
bears?
bears.
take,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Take
had
pictures
to
of two
double
bears
up
together.
pics, and that, and it was the most level ground where we drug his bear down to a
Uh-huh.
pretty level spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So we got.
Did you end
took
up getting them
some-
both together?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got them both
Yeah. See, I haven't
together.
seen that picture. I don't think.
Okay. Yeah.
and
I'll-
before we
we'll
found
put
them,
it up there.
I had found a shed, and you know, I'm a horn hunter. I was like, dude, there's a shed. I'm all picking it
Yeah.
up. It's a nice mule deer shed, you know, 4-point. And I'm like, it's hard white. So I'm all looking around and walking up the draw, and he's like, dude, we got 2 bears down over here. Let's go find these bears. I was like, but there's a horn. Yeah. He's like, gosh. So yeah, we go back down. We find them, and
Yeah.
Drug
It's
them
a
up
pretty
together
good
and
pull up
took
out
some
of there.
pictures.
It
Yeah,
was
and of course,
Probably every bit of 1,200 feet.
yeah, of course, they went to the bottom of those
Yeah,
those
brutal.
little fingers.
Yeah.
and,
some of the steepest stuff I've
Oh, yeah.
like,
That's
let alone pack an
foul.
animal out of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, at first when I shot the one, I was going, heck yeah, I've got another guy to help me carry it around. Because the last 5 I've killed, I've always been by myself. And
Yeah.
so it's always, me packing them out of these holes by myself.
Yeah.
And I was all jacked up because I had this dude I drug out here with me to come help me pack this bear out. Well, then
Next thing
he
you know,
shoots
get to-
one too, right? So then we're like, oh crap, we
We've got a
each
lot
got
of
to
work
carry a
now.
whole bear out of here.
Yeah.
So we quartered him out and boned him out, and then you wanted to take the hide off yours.
Yeah,
you know?
Nick's like, oh.
Yeah.
So we
It's getting late at this point.
yeah, it's
I
dark.
think
It's dark.
Yeah, I think by the time we got over to him, found him, I mean, we're pushing 8
Yeah.
or 9 o'clock.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got them both taken care of. Got yours all skinned out, so you
Yeah,
can
we
do
closed
something
in
with it.
prayer.
Yep.
I think we prayed about down there. We also talked about God a lot, skinning them out and stuff.
I
Like,
bet.
it was like kind of the
Well, it's kind of like a pretty divine,
Yeah.
like
like we were
undeniably
we
the
were
Lord's
both feeling
fingerprints
it.
at work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it took us eons to get out of there, but we finally got out at. I don't know. We probably didn't get back to.
It was 11:45, I think, when we made it
To the
from where we shot him up to the pickup.
I bet. Yeah.
And then a pretty good long drive out of there.
Yeah.
We didn't get
Yeah.
home till probably like almost 2:00 in the morning, and then this is on a Thursday. We both got to
Yeah.
work the
Yeah.
next day.
Yeah, I had to work at like 5 the
At
next
least you
morning.
got
or
an
something
understanding
crazy.
boss. What did
Yeah.
you? What did the job?
We just
What
went
did
to
the
work.
job description say?
Yeah, guilt-free.
Guilt-free
guilt-free
hunting
time
time. Well,
Yeah.
at least you had that going for you.
Yeah, I'm like 4 days into work. Like,
Yeah.
gonna need to take time off to hunt. No.
Sorry, Jed.
Yeah. So, and we were working different schedules at the time, and so Seth had to be at the office at 5,
Oh.
and I didn't have to be there till 7. And I was like, heck yeah, I got a little bit of time to sleep. You poor
Yeah.
sucker.
Yeah.
Dude, I
Anyway.
couldn't hardly go to sleep. Like I got
I
home
bet.
and I was on cloud 9. Like
Yeah.
just thinking about.
Your head's probably gonna be
yeah,
just
thinking about the
spinning.
whole thing. Just like
How did that
the
whole
talks
experience
about God,
like?
and
How did that whole experience like impact you?
it was pretty crazy. We had some deep talks about like he said, just sin in general and
Yeah.
and porn and lust and all kinds of stuff that I never thought about,
Yeah.
never that I considered was, going to impact my relationship with
Sure.
not only God, but also my family.
Yeah.
And in doing so, like, my wife was going through the same stuff, talking with Emma, and so it was pretty cool. Like, that whole experience, I think, was, like you said, that pivotal point in my relationship with God.
Yeah.
And it was probably shortly after that hunt where I feel like everything changed, that dramatic change in heart and everything turned around.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're being able to see the transformation in your guys' lives, like in every aspect, right? Like your relationship with your wife, how you are as a husband and a father, that even the changes in your kids, right? I mean, they're only 2 and 4, right?
Yeah.
And we can like visibly see differences in your kids.
Just introducing God and prayer into their lives and just seeing how it's changed them and
that's incredible.
The way they recognize right and wrong.
And to take that one step further, right? Like we work together now, right? And we have very, very different positions.
Yeah.
And
I build pivots, he sells them. So
essentially, yeah. And so one of the things that is cool about your job and how you've utilized it is that you're with a bunch of guys, every day, right? Yeah. You're with a crew of guys every day. I have a little bit more of an isolated position, right? Mm-hmm. I spend a lot of time with our customers, but not a lot of time with our crew, to be honest. And in this whole transitional moment, or, time in your life, right? You have been absolutely on fire for the Lord, right? I mean, it's apparent,
Yeah, and it's not something you recognize that you're doing either.
Right.
No. It's something I struggle with daily, wondering like, man, am I truly born again? Like, am I bearing fruit? Am I, I'm in the Word every day. And I think at that time too, McKenna had joined a Bible study with your wife and the women at work, and the men didn't have anything. Yeah. And it was like really weighing on me to get into a men's group and a Bible study. And so I think at the time I was like hounding Nick about it. I was like, dude,
I was too. I had always
to be honest, like I had always talked about starting a Bible study just at our house, just some kind of men's group, some kind of, place for men to, fellowship and just learn about the Lord and spend time together and on and on and on. And so, I had asked Seth if this was something he was interested in previously, and you had said yes. And
I'd say it was like October is when I really felt that change of heart.
Sure.
It was opening day of deer season, and my wife and I were having a hard time. Like, I'd came clean about just stuff, and we had talked it out, and cried together, prayed together, and we were just out deer hunting, and which is also a super cool story as well. Ended up doubling up on mule deer and lookout unit with the kid that got his first buck, and I took one for the team and shot a little spike that was growing all like one horn down, one horn up, and just to talk that kid into shooting his first buck. And it was just a super cool experience, and a way that we got to talk about God with that guy that's from across the state. And it was pretty cool.
But we got this, we finally, I was like, all right, okay, we need to get some kind of men's group going. And so, we started a men's group, and it didn't start out as anything giant, and it's still not, we still don't have dozens of guys going or anything, but at first it was just a couple of us, and the way that you have been able to impact those around you just on your crew and other guys that you spend time with has been apparent, right? Like some of those guys, which admittedly I have never guessed in a million years that anybody could have ever got them to come to a Bible study, or just to come sit in my dining room, whatever it is. Like I would have never put money on that deal. But pretty quickly, we have guys showing up to this men's group that, are in that group of guys that I'm going, how in the world did Seth get these dudes to show up?
Nick calls me and be like, you'd never believe who was sitting in my house last night.
Yeah, exactly. And so to be able to see the transformation in your life and how that's affecting everybody around you, I mean, it's this giant trickle down effect, right?
The whole company.
Yeah, truly the whole company. And Jed, right?
And if the whole company isn't, we're talking about it, whether we're making them feel uncomfortable or not, I don't know, but it's being brought up.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's
praise God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
all glory to
absolutely.
God,
Like
the entire
he's been
thing.
at work. I mean, he's been working hard. He's been working hard, and so anyway, I don't know, for whatever it's worth. Like it's incredibly cool to see what you are doing, the changes that you've made, and how it's affecting everybody around you. And you know, those other people are affected, and they go affect the people around them. And like I said, it's this giant trickle down deal. So, for whatever it's worth, like props to you and ultimately the Lord for everything that He's doing and you're doing, because
It's been pretty crazy for me to like get the blow by blow of this, right? Because Nick's calling me, like we talk pretty regularly, and you know he gives me like the Cliff Notes version of like everything that's going on, and he'd call me and be like, "Dude, Seth is just like on fire," you know, like he's going around to everybody's desk and he's like, "Hey, you gonna come Bible study?" And you know, and it's just good on you, dude, and it's just a powerful story, just like an incredible experience, you know, like just the whole thing, everything that's transpired over the last like year,
6 months.
is just, it's undeniable. Like
and
just so on so many different levels and in so many different fronts, you know, like it's incredible. Like it's incredible.
Yeah.
and much like you know, feeling the draw to kind of disciple with hunting and that stuff. I feel a desire to be a disciple for the Lord as well, and it's just hard being, you know, so young in your faith, and as you're learning, and then you're trying to, you know, I feel it. I've always felt like I was a Christian. I always felt like I was doing the things, and I always felt like I was saved and was going to go to heaven. And now, since all of this has transpired, I feel like my eyes are open, and I'm like, I think that if I were to die when, you know, before all of this, I would have gone to heaven, and Jesus would have said, I don't know you, and, you know, and turned me away. And so I feel like it's like strong urge to talk to everybody else, you know, that claim Christ, claim to be a believer, but they're not bearing the fruit, and just try to talk to them and influence them to kind of like take a step back and look at their lives and see if they are doing the things that they think will, you know, get
100%.
them there. And it's hard for people. I mean, it's super hard to accept.
It's an awkward conversation to have.
Too. And it's hard to also, you know, you don't want to point out somebody's speck if you have a log in yours and in your eye. And I think that you definitely have to go about it very carefully.
For sure. 100%.
Absolutely. And for anybody listening, I mean, like we've all been there, right?
Yeah,
we've all thought, oh, I'm a Christian, right? I believe in God, you know, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I mean, can you really sit down and say that you wholeheartedly have a relationship with the Lord? And, you know, if you were knocking on heaven's gates, would Christ say, I know you, I know this guy, right?
Yeah.
I think for a lot of us, the answer is probably no.
Yeah.
It was for me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And I, like you say that you're young in your faith, right? But like, there's a certain, at least in my own life, right? Like, there's a certain, there's a fire for the Lord that you have, like, when it's fresh and it's like present in your mind, right?
Yeah.
And like you see where you came from and you see how your life has improved now. And sometimes I think that we kind of get like callous to that, like as we become older in our faith.
And that's something
that's the danger of
not being in the Word every day.
Well, not being in the Word every day. Sometimes though, like we get almost like religious to the, like, we're in the Word every day, like you read your Bible every day, but it becomes more out of like a habitual, like a rule almost, more than it becomes actually like relationally of the Lord, you know. Mm-hmm. Like, and I think that that's a danger. That's a danger that we can fall into as well, you know. Is like, even though like your life is, I mean, look at the Pharisees, like in the Bible, all through the Bible, right? Yeah. Like they were the most devout, astute members of Judaism.
Yeah, and they were missing the whole point.
They were missing the whole point, right? Yeah. Because there was not that relationship. There wasn't that fire and that desire to know the Lord. And so like, even though like you say that you're like young in your faith, like that's great, dude. That's phenomenal, because you have that fire and that burning desire to pursue God and to share God's word. And that's something that, you know, like we have to make sure that we don't let that fire burn out, right? Like we have to feed that. And I think that by sharing, at least like in my own life, like anytime that I start like sharing the gospel with people, like that helps stoke that fire, you know, like
Yeah.
that keeps my fire burning, you know, like this podcast. And I mean, everything, like it's incredibly motivating, you know, and there's so much growth that happens like when you yourself learn, you know, like, and as you're trying to explain things to other people, like you learn on a deeper level yourself, and you just kindle that relationship with the Lord. And yeah, it's super cool,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
It's super cool. Yeah. Nick told me all this, right? Like he's like, you're not gonna believe it. Like I have your first podcast episode, and he told me all this, like he laid it out, and it was just like the most obvious confirmation that like I could have possibly received, right? Like after like, because like I had this crazy revelation, and I was like, man, like how in the world am I gonna make that happen? Like I don't, like I don't know how to start a podcast. Like I don't, why me, you know, type of a deal. Like I don't know what I'm doing, and but like the confirmation,
we still don't, but
no, we're trying. But like your guys' story, you know, like it was such a strong confirmation for me that like it was undeniable. Like it was a non-negotiable for me. Like I had to act on it just because it was so powerful, right? Like it was just incredible, dude. Just like the whole story and everything, and the way that everything unfolded was just truly divine. Like it was
incredible. And it was out of my hands. I mean, I feel
me
like
too.
Yeah, I feel like it.
Yeah.
You know, they say you have free will, but it's like I also feel like a lot of it, you know, was out of my control.
For
it
sure.
happened for a reason, and,
It did
and
happen
everything just kind of like, you know, God used bad and good to lead me there. So
yeah,
and I think that if, you know, He didn't make one thing happen, it, you know, wouldn't be where we are today.
For sure.
So, yeah, it's pretty incredible.
It is super incredible, man.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Thanks for
It's
having
great
me on here.
Like
it's cool.
This is a great episode. This is by far my favorite episode.
Yeah,
for sure, 100%.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's our first, you know, guest, quote
Yeah.
unquote, right? And you've got such a cool story, and
a powerful story.
Yeah, it's encouraging to all of us, and hopefully
sure.
encourage anybody listening.
100%.
Yeah.
Once again, guys, like if you have an encounter, like a story that where God has like shown up and impacted your life, like please reach out to us, you know, like let us know. You know, if possible, we'd like to get together in person, like as much as we possibly can. But like even if you're all the way across the US, I mean, if you have a crazy story, like we'll figure it out. We want to get these stories out there, you know, like we want to share the gospel, and we want to share these testimonies because it's pretty incredible. You know, there's a lot of power in it, and it's very motivating for us, and for, I got to imagine, for everybody listening to these podcasts, you know, and share these, you know, like these are meant to be shared, you know, like it was the reason that we created this podcast is not to glorify us in any capacity. This is strictly for the glory of the Lord. And the more that I guess like we can share these and get them out there, you know, if we can somehow help people to, maybe if it does nothing but make somebody ask themselves a question, you know, like that's the start of it. Plant the seed.
Indeed.
Plant the seed.
Indeed.
So.
And if you are listening and you are on the cusp of it, dude, seek and you'll find it.
It will change your life.
Yeah.
How is your life like?
Yeah, it's completely turned around. I mean, just the way I view things, the way I prioritize things, the way we structure our house now, and
your relationships.
Yeah. You know, you prioritize God first, and your relationship with your wife or your girlfriend's gonna drastically change.
Improve.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's crazy to think you're gonna prioritize something above your wife, but if you prioritize God, then your wife, then your kids.
Yeah.
You know, everything's gonna pan out the way it's supposed to.
It falls into place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Cool. Well, you want to close us out in prayer?
Will you do it? You mind?
Yeah, I can do it.
All right.
Go for it, man.
All right. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for giving us the opportunity to sit here and fellowship together and just talk about the way you have used each and every one of us to glorify you, Lord. Just thank you for giving us this just life that we can use to help others and lead others to Christ, and just tell our stories and just ultimately just put all the glory to you, and thank you for given us an avenue to do so, like hunting and fishing in the outdoors, that gives us the opportunity to be alone and really reflect on our thoughts and be closer to you, Lord. And we just want to pray for safe travels for everybody today as they head back to where they came from, and just thank you for everything. We love you, praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you, my friend.
Very good prayer.
We'll catch you guys on the
Very
next
good.
one.